Have you read a story in the Draoithe Saga and come away with a classic case of immersion after effect? Let me guess, there are questions which remain unanswered even as the magic expanded, adding another layer to the dream. The grand desire to turn the page to discover what happened next ended with the last leaf turned. If you're asking where the remedy for the book Hangover is, you know the answer: read another story. But you aren't ready for the next tale, not yet. The dust needs to settle before you pick up the next volume. So you have found your way here. You aren't alone. Even the author can't get enough. As you hear this, Ophelia Key writes on. But allow me to offer you a possibility, a reflection on the tale you recently finished, and a way to revisit the story to ease the story blues. Welcome to the Draoithe Saga Afterparty. Warning, spoiler alerts ahead. Turn back now if you wish to read the story blind.
Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the shadows, into Ophelia Key's Dark Curse, using some really captivating excerpts. And this isn't just any fantasy tale, it's really a portal into the whole Draoithe Saga. They describe this world as a dream to live for. Just imagine, myths, legends, fairy tales, they're all real.
Yeah.
And it's all wrapped up in this very steamy, urban fantasy, paranormal romance vibe.
Right, and the bigger picture here, the mission of the Draoithe Saga, it's pretty huge. They're basically trying to found this immortal kingdom in a place called the IN deal. The goal is, it's about restoring magical balance that's been thrown way off. And often we see this through these stories of fated couples finding hope, in the middle of all the chaos. Oh, and just a quick heads up for you listening. The source material itself, it explicitly says 18 plus HEA, and it warns about adult themes, fantasy violence, and explicit sexual situations. So HEA means happily ever after, NC, no cheating, common stuff in the genre, but yeah, tells you it's definitely mature.
Yeah, that's important context right up front. So at the heart of our deep dive today, we've got two really fascinating characters, complicated ones too. First, there's Hannah O'Keefe. She's a 24-year-old dancer, and her life just gets completely turned upside down. And then there's Flame. He's this powerful gray dragon alpha. And get this, he's 629 years old.
Wow, yeah.
Their story, it kicks off with a rescue, but it's not straightforward at all. It immediately tangles their fates together in ways neither could have possibly seen coming. So to really get into it, we kind of need to start with Hannah's introduction to this whole new reality, which is pretty harrowing.
Yeah.
One, the violent genesis of a new reality. Okay, so let's start with Hannah. Her entry point here is just horrifically traumatic. She was a dancer, seemed like a normal young woman, right? But she had this ancient magic inside her. Then she gets abducted by three evil dragons, and they forcibly turn her into what the text calls a broken vampire. Mm-hmm. And when she couldn't do the magic they wanted, they left her to die in this warehouse. It's just a brutal, brutal start, stripped of everything.
And the key thing here, is Hannah's background, her magic. She's not just any dancer. She's a Denlacer that's like a fire witch and a justice vampire, born like touching the well of fire.
Yeah.
It's this lineage, these red-haired, green-eyed O'Keefe women. They have super powerful fire magic. But yeah, despite all that potential power, what those dragons did, it ripped it away.
Yeah.
Left her completely powerless, fading. And her eyes, they were originally green, sparkly green, the text says. They turned black because her magic's been sealed off.
Right, and that's when Flame arrives, dramatically. He finds one of Hannah's attackers, the text is blunt, calls him the man who'd raped her, finds him writhing in pain nearby. And Flame's reaction, it's swift, it's brutal, honestly it's shocking. He uses a claw, mutilates the guy into a eunuch, strips his magic, and then binds him as a dragon's horn servant forever. Calls in Hannah's man, condemned to serve her eternally. It's definitely not your typical knight in shining armor rescue, is it? So given how extreme that is, how does the text even frame it as a rescue? What's that tell us about the morals here?
That's such a good question, because the framing really shows you the kind of gray morality in this series. Mm-hmm. Justice can look pretty horrifying. Flame is acting on his king's orders, apparently. But the methods, they're extreme, violent, no question. And for Hannah, this sudden appearance by Flame, it's terrifying. The book literally says she feared him more than the other three had frightened her combined.
Oof.
Yeah. So it's a stark reminder, isn't it? Even a rescuer can feel like just another threat, especially after that kind of trauma.
Absolutely. And you really see that psychological damage inside Hannah, especially with her feelings about being a vampire now. She's disgusted by drinking blood, even from her abuser, who Flame basically serves up to her. She feels unclean, like her life's been made ugly, but then, despite hating herself for it, the thirst is overwhelming. She desperately craves Flame's blood. What a horrible position to be in, needing the thing you despise from someone you fear.
Exactly. And that ties right back to that mature themes warning we gave earlier. It's not just physical trauma Hannah's dealing with. It's deeply psychological. Think about it. Her whole identity was being a dancer, controlled discipline, beauty, movement. Now, she's forced into this state, needing blood. Her life's flipped, and she is not okay with it. Which really complicates any simple idea of rescue. 2. The dragon's claim and a gilded cage.
So from this really brutal beginning, this new dynamic starts right away. Flame makes his claim. Even though Hannah is, a broken vampire in this awful state, Flame feels this instant, intense pull. He smells lavender on her, apparently divinely, and he just knows she's his life mate. His heart aches for her. He doesn't see a monster. He sees his greatest treasure. It's such a fast, powerful shift for him. So what does this life mate thing actually mean for shifters like Flame? Does that explain why he's immediately so possessive? That's a great question, yeah. Because for shifters, this life mate bond is like everything. It's not like human relationships where things might fade. The book says the attraction slowly increases with the bond. It never plateaus, never fades. So Flame's immediate possessiveness, he actually says, "My blood demands I be near you. It presses me remorselessly." That's all part of this intense, fated connection. He feels this overwhelming urge to protect her, hoard her away almost. It's instinctual.
And he tries to make her comfortable by, throwing money at the problem. He buys her thousands of dollars in designer clothes, jewelry, all in her size somehow. When she asks how he can afford it, he's just like, money is not an issue for a dragon. It's kind of a jarring display, isn't it? Even if he means well.
Oh, definitely. And that leads right into this idea of a gilded cage.
Sure, Flame gives her safety, comforts, clothes, a safe room with no windows, even a servant, the guy who mutilated. But Hannah, she feels completely trapped. She says it outright. I don't want any of this. I just want my life back and I want to dance. She just wants her old life, her freedom. All these fine things mean nothing to her. It really makes you think, right? If you were Hannah, how long before those gifts felt like prison bars?
Exactly. And then there's the mystery of her eyes, still black instead of green, and her missing fire magic. Flame drops hints. Turns out he's a stocks investment specialist. A bit random for a dragon.
Yeah.
And he says he studied vampires extensively. He suggests he can help her. He seems to know more than he's saying about why she's like this.
Oh, he definitely does. And this sets up the magic side of things nicely. Flame knows her eyes are black because they sealed her magic, sealed her off from her fire, and also, kind of creepily, sealed her from connecting with other men too. It's protective, but also controlling. He implies he can fix it, restore her eyes, her fire. But, there's always a catch with magic like this. There's going to be a price. And Hannah's left wondering what it'll cost her. 3. Unpacking the dark gift and Flame's burdens.
Okay, so let's dig into this whole vampirism and magic thing a bit deeper. We learn there are different types of magic. Light, elemental, dark. Veritas, which is blood magic. Cedra, that's sexual energy magic. And Volos, that's vampire magic. A mix of shifter, druid, and such stuff. And what's wild is, even after everything, Hannah still has this unique power. She's a Justice Princess.
Right. And this brings up that classic debate. Is vampirism a dark gift or just a curse? I mean, yeah, you get immortality, maybe beauty, allure. But you have to consume life force. You can't handle the sun. There are big downsides. And how does Hannah deal with it? Well, we see the fear, the despair, definitely. But there are also these moments where she discovers new things, like getting her fire back, or learning to levitate, which apparently most vampires can't even do. So it's this constant internal battle for her, isn't it? Terror versus this intriguing new power.
Yeah, definitely. Now let's switch to Flame for a second, because his past is heavy, and it explains so much about him now. We find out his real name is Diarmuid Sinead. He actually died and was brought back as a dragon by a Shaban, some powerful magic user. Yeah. Then he spent centuries basically enslaved as a dragon knight.
Forced servitude.
Yeah, and this servitude involved a physical connection with his riders through that Cedra magic, the sexual energy stuff, which he makes clear was intimate and definitely not his choice.
And this is where that awful story about Clara and Roselle comes in. Just gut-wrenching. These were 2 young women, innocent, being abused. Flame tried to save them. He turned them into vampires, thinking he was giving them a new life, a chance. But then his old king betrayed him, just left the girls broken and bleeding for the dawn to take them. Horrible. So this trauma, this failure. It explains why Flame is so desperate for redemption through Hannah now. He failed Clara and Roselle, and maybe he thinks saving Hannah can, I don't know, save him from that past, which puts a lot of pressure on Hannah, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And all that heavy past leads up to this really powerful ritual he performs. To break the seal on Hannah's magic, he does something incredibly intimate. He speaks her true name, Hannah O'Keefe, and then he kisses her 9 times with his own blood on his lips, and boom, it works. It restores her fire magic, and her eyes turn green again, at least when she's in human form. It's this huge moment of restoration for her, but it also definitely ties her closer to Flame.
Mm-hmm. And that ritual really underscores the power, but also the danger of a dragon bleeding for a vampire. Flame's blood, yeah, it stops Hannah's thirst. It gives her power, unlocks things, but also incredibly addictive. The book is very clear. Give it too often, and the vampire becomes a thrall. Mindless, their personality is gone. Yeah. So he has to be careful. Only once a day, at dawn, like some kind of Valkyrie thing. Mm-hmm. It creates this profound dependency, though. She needs his blood daily now.
And the description of her drinking his blood, I mean, staying true to the mature themes, it's very intense. It's described as erotic for both of them. Like, Flame literally comes from the euphoria, and Hannah feels drunk afterwards, completely overwhelmed by the connection. It really blurs those lines between needing sustenance, pleasure, and maybe even control in their bond. 4, navigating a new world and lingering fears. Okay, so Hannah's getting some power back. Her connection with Flame is, well, it's deepening intensely. And we start seeing more of the world around them, the Draoithe Society. It's called a multi-billion-dollar startup, which is kind of a funny description. But it includes all these groups, the Druid Pack, other dragons, people seeking sanctuary, other vampires too, like Mihaela, who's this old, powerful Romanian princess about to join their leadership council, and guys named Andrei and Riker. It's a busy place.
Yeah, it's a whole supernatural community. And within it, you have these concepts of consorts and mates for immortals, often described as this permanent bond, sometimes involving pretty intense sexual dominance, where the male kind of claims the female's magic. But the book also shows us Kalek, who's a powerful bear shifter, and Mihaela, that vampire princess. Kalek gives his strength to Mihaela, but he doesn't seize her magic. So it suggests maybe there isn't just one way these immortal bonds work. There might be different paths to partnership, different power dynamics.
That's interesting. And amidst all the darkness and the power struggles, we do get these moments of connection, maybe even joy, between Hannah and Flame. They both love dancing, apparently. They share this tango that's called Fantastic. Hannah even admits at times she finds him charming. His grin becomes perfect when she genuinely smiles. These little moments, they hint at something potentially deeper, more loving maybe. But how do they square with all the fear and control stuff?
They're really important moments, I think. They offer that glimpse of hope, right? Genuine connection bubbling up through the trauma. But yeah, despite those flashes, Hannah's fear, it's always there. Her internal conflict is constant. She's terrified of Flame's power. She feels petrified. She admits to herself that if he demanded it, she'd probably beg an alpha male to kiss him. And she even recognizes it herself, calls it feeling like Stockholm syndrome. That self-awareness is profound and pretty troubling. It highlights just how little real choice she feels she has sometimes.
Yeah, and then there's the practical stuff too. She gets this awful claustrophobic cabin fever. She desperately wants out of the house, but she's terrified of the sun now because it burns her. For Hannah, being a vampire, it's still very much a dark curse, not a gift, just a constant reminder of the life she lost.
And Flame, he's not exactly free and easy either. He's got his own baggage, his own fears, which adds another layer. He's clearly struggling with his past trauma, especially that betrayal and the fear of being executed again, this time by his new king Luke, who's the Dire Wolf King. And he makes this huge admission. Only Hannah has the power to destroy him. Think about that vulnerability, coming from a 600-year-old dragon. Plus, he actually prefers being alone, having a social life, going to parties, rather than being isolated in his huge, scary dragon form. Kind of ironic, isn't it? It's immense power, but he craves connection.
It really is. And that brings us right back to the core tension, doesn't it? Flame insists he wants a life mate who chooses him. He doesn't want to thrall someone forced. But the massive question for Hannah, and maybe for us reading, is how much real choice does she have? Especially when her survival, her control over that terrifying thirst is literally tied to his blood every single day. And wow, that feels like a good place to pause our deep dive into Dark Curse for today. We've really walked through this intense emotional journey with Hannah and Flame, haven't we? A relationship starting from such deep trauma, trying to find its way amidst all this intricate magic and these really complicated power dynamics.
We really have. We've seen how that past trauma just shapes everything, all the present choices. How
How that line between gift and curse is so blurry depends entirely on who you ask, especially Hannah, and just how complex and frankly dangerous relationships can be in this immortal world. The story really makes you think about rescue, doesn't it? When does helping someone cross the line if they don't have full agency? It challenges that whole idea of salvation versus control, especially when the power balance is so incredibly skewed.
So what does it all mean? Well, we've seen Flame, right? Driven by this need for redemption, this powerful mate bond pull, going to pretty extreme lengths for Hannah. And we've seen Hannah dealing with immense fear and trauma, but still slowly starting to explore her own new power, even within this incredibly difficult relationship.
Yeah, and that really leaves us with a big question for you, the listener. In a world like this, where freedom, choice, they seem totally tangled up with power and sacrifice, how do you weigh survival against wanting real autonomy? Especially when the person who rescued you, the person you depend on, admits that you and only you have the power to destroy them. What choices would you make if you were in Hannah's shoes, knowing her story is clearly far from over?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for your support. For more, visit opheliakey.com. Welcome to the dream. Sincerely. Okay.